is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
I screwed up. Hey, coming to you from New York, it's the Ramble, and I've got a sore throat. Boy, that's Lori Thompson, folks. And
hello.
And she likes to rub it in that she's in sunny Florida with the flowers and everything like that.
That's why I thought, for believability's sake, that I should present you on our Florida deck. But the weather was calling for huge, it calls for rain, like 15 minutes a day. But you never know when that 15 minutes is going to hit.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed it's going to rain. Because that would be like an exclusive on our program.
Yeah, it would be cinema verite too, because I could just run to the other spot.
Run with your iPad, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like a Buster Keaton.
You may
movie.
notice I put my sunny background on me because I last time one of the interviews we did, I had the nighttime background here. Excuse me, my throat's a little gargly today. And it didn't look right.
It would look like we were, and that could have happened if it was like 7 o'clock here and 8 o'clock here, because Florida is in Central Time. And
wait a minute, Florida's in Central Time?
It is. Yeah, because isn't that amazing?
Wait a minute.
Well, I mean, it's an hour after Eastern Time. I mean, we're an hour earlier than Eastern.
If I look at the map, it shouldn't be Central, should it?
Well, it's a fudge. It's a little bit of a fudge. And so if you drew, like Illinois, I grew up in Central Time. So if you draw a line, it's a fudge, but it could be Central Time.
Really? I didn't know that. And I lived in Florida. You remember I lived in Florida.
I know those treacherous years.
Oh, God.
That fateful eon.
I felt like I wasn't exactly working in Florida. I was banished to Florida.
Yeah, it was like a prison island.
yeah, I was like banished. And I don't remember it being Central Time.
Yeah, well, and plus, then they do this, some states, like in growing up,
mm-hmm.
some would go to the spring forward, fall back. Others would not subscribe to it, and so then you got really confused in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And I just I use Central Time as my basis because I'm used to doing the math, because everything starts before Central Time or after Central Time.
Are those birds? Are those birds I'm hearing?
Those are birds. We got all kinds of them. I mean, there are a lot of bird fanciers here.
Yeah.
And I am not. I mean, I hear a mourning dove, and I think it's an owl.
Yeah.
So because they coo the same.
Right.
What is up with you, mister?
I don't know. My voice is gargly today.
Yeah. See, now, do you have acid reflux problem?
No.
I never did until I had to correct that sodium low, and now I drink Gatorade constantly.
That causes acid reflux?
Well, when you drink, 4 gallons a day. No, it's an exaggeration, but I drink a lot.
What was wrong with your sodium?
It was too low. I mean, and according to the numericals, if you get below 22, which I was at, mm-hmm. then you have to go in the hospital, and they pump you through with fluids. And it's, you're on IV, and then it brings you back, and then you have to maintain it. And so V8 juice original, mm-hmm. and Gatorade G2 with low sugar.
And that will take care of all your sodium.
It will. You got to be really diligent about it. And it's kind of a chore, but I drink it. It becomes part of your day.
Yeah. Well, to keep my health good in New York, the doctors recommend 4 rat sightings a day. So
Rat sightings.
yes.
Oh, that you can meet that like pronto,
I
right?
just go outside and I just stand on the corner and I get 4 rat sightings and I'm feeling much better.
Yes, no, I see. You got a number on me because I have only seen 2 rats alive in my life.
Really?
And I grew up in the Midwest. We see mice everywhere when they harvest the corn.
Actually, they're not as bad here as you would think they are. You know, we get their reports and so. Do you know? I was talking to Bubbles the other day.
Yeah,
and
Larry Bubbles Brown.
He was talking about San Francisco, and so I went and I watched a documentary that CNN had on San Francisco.
Yeah.
We don't want to go back there.
Oh man, it's brutal. I've been back there recently in the last year and a half, 2 years. And I used to go back for Thanksgiving every year.
Yeah.
We'd go back to Sonoma and then go into San Francisco. And it's become the homelessness problem and all the ensuing problems. Like there's public defecation. You pretty much will see it if you're walking to San Francisco. And my empathy just takes a beating in San Francisco. Because my mom's...
Dave Chappelle said he went to a restaurant in the Tenderloin. There may be a good restaurant down there. I have no idea. But he went to a restaurant in the Tenderloin, and he's sitting there. He has a table by the window. There's some guy taking a dump right on the sidewalk.
Yeah, which, I mean, I have seen people shoot up in Dolores Park. And the other one that's, on the slope of the Haight as it joins Divisadero. But I had never seen in the entire time I lived there someone defecate in public. And now you're pretty much a guarantee if you're there 3 days or more.
They say the big problem in San Francisco right now is that the price of what's that drug, the dangerous one, fentanyl. The price of fentanyl is the cheapest anywhere in the country. So that's why they gravitate to San Francisco. That and the other reason is Twitter, but that's another story altogether. No, Silicon Valley is no longer Silicon Valley. San Francisco is Silicon Valley.
Exactly.
Google is there. Twitter is there. Yahoo, I think, is there. And so all these people moved up. And of course, what are they going to do to the rents? All the landlords are going to raise the rents. And supposedly the average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment in New York City is $3,000 now.
The apartment, the very apartment I first rented, it was a 1-bedroom. It had it wasn't a baker's kitchen, but it was a nice kitchen and a bedroom, bathroom, and a parking spot.
Oh yeah,
and it was $600. It was in what they used to call, the Western Edition, which was very dicey.
Yeah,
kind of. It was getting better.
Yeah,
but now that same apartment would cost you $3,200.
Wow.
Yeah,
and remember I had an apartment, 2 apartments in the Marina.
Yeah, and that was pricey even then.
I had 2 because I used one as a studio. And I used the other one as a living space. Okay, and they were right across from each other, and you had to just go across on on that kind of fire escapey thing to get from one to the other.
It was a great setup.
Yeah, I just kept the doors open in the kitchens on both of them. I just keep walking back and forth, And one apartment cost me, was it $1,800 a month? I think something like that. And the other one was about $2,500. Now that apartment is probably going for $5,000-$6,000.
Totally. And it's become absurd. And I once read a piece on the Pacific Rim and Silicon Valley, and it explained everything that's happening in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And you got all this investment coming from not just one source, Silicon Valley, but it makes sense. And it's when I feel in San Francisco is it's priced itself into absurdity, where to live here you would almost have to justify it. Yeah. And that rail, that speed rail that they've always been, I guess speed rail is something else, but the speed rail they've been promising us from LA to San Francisco for years, and it's running out of money now. That's the big, yeah. So I don't know.
Elon Musk is trying to build this fast underground railroad. It was just like it's like a vacuum tube, and it just all the way to San Francisco. But he hasn't gotten that going very far.
Yeah, man, it would be so great. I mean, it would totally change the real estate, the everything, social habits on the West Coast. It would completely revolutionize if they would get that done.
Wow, that's
which I wish.
Yeah. But I mean, what?
We were speaking of drugs a minute ago. You know what's really in short supply is ADHD.
That's for ADHD,
right. So I mean, those are people that are assimilated enough to be in your workplace.
Well, wait a minute. ADHD basically, doesn't that affect children more than it affects adults?
Generally, but they found it in adults with increasing frequency.
Oh, okay.
And maybe it has to do with being administered Adderall as a child.
So what you're basically saying is you can't lay your hands on crazy pills.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I mean, they put such a tight hold on Xanax. I mean, I have a prescription that I rarely take, but it doesn't.
I never.
You want a nation that's not troubled, don't you?
Yeah, but I got a 3-year supply of Xanax here in the house.
Yeah.
And the reason is every year my doctor gives me another prescription for 90 more pills or something. And I don't take a whole pill because it's the double, triple pill or something. So
it's the bar. Yeah, the Xanax bar.
So, I cut it in a quarter. I don't take the whole thing. If I take it at all, but I haven't taken it in the longest time.
Yeah, same here.
So
yeah.
Here we are, two old people in their declining years, talking about the medicine they're taking.
Yeah, I always try to couch it in more global terms or more of the general public, because I vowed when I was like 40 that I would not be one of those people that talks about their health. Because
somebody once described it to us as that when a bunch of old people sit down to lunch, the first thing they have is an organ recital.
Yeah. Oh, you still have yours? You haven't replaced yours?
Yeah. Oh, did you replace your knee last year? Oh, how's your pancreas doing?
Yeah. Oh, the pancreas is a troublemaker.
Yeah.
Those aisles of Langerhans. But you know what's even better? I have my neighbor, Sheila. Yeah. This woman, she doesn't gossip. She doesn't say crummy things about people. But 5 minutes with Sheila, and you are totally dialed into the neighborhood. It's great. Who's had a baby? Who's going up to see their daughter? Who's in the military? I mean, who just got transferred from the military? Yeah. It's great.
Let's once again tell people that you are in Florida.
Right, in the Panhandle. Panhandle.
Oh, you're up way up there.
Right, which we haven't been troubled by hurricanes.
Well, what town are you in? What's the area up there? What's the closest
It's the Fort Walton Beach area, but I just didn't want to live in a town that was so closely associated with military. Fort. Fort is pretty clear. And so we live in a little boutique town.
So did you move there with your husband? Or
we did move there. We weren't married at the time. But we did move there.
Oh, okay.
And he had friends here, and we came down for a visit, and they pretty much sold. One was a lifetimer. I mean, there are streets named after her family here. Yeah. And she told us the good, the bad, and the ugly of the place, and the good far outweighed. I mean, she could be on the Florida Tourism Commission or Florida Real Estate.
You don't want to be at the other end. You don't want to go to Miami or anywhere near Miami.
No, because my husband lived there, and so I go down. I've been there a few times. And it's just like, oh, this is cool. This is nice. And he said that even people that don't think they have a problem with two languages being prevalent do after a while in Miami. And I said, that's racist. And he said, well, I don't think of myself as a racist, but it gets annoying when you can't be understood speaking English. And so.
Well, there's a lot of Cuban down there.
I know that's what he said, and he had Cuban friends.
By the way,
But
do you ever try Cuban coffee?
no, is it great?
It keeps
No.
you awake for 5 days. I mean, this stuff
Really?
comes in a little cup, right?
I'm
And you go,
gonna
well, how
get-
much coffee am I going to get in this? And they say, would you like some sugar? And I'd say, well, a little bit. And they put in a whole giant spoonful, and then you just take the thing, you down the whole thing. I'd do it on the way to work. I'd stop. There was this place. I would stop and get it, and man, it was just like that much, just a little tiny bit, and you were wired for the rest of the day.
See, now they're talking my language, because I'd like some of that for emergencies.
Well, I can't.
Like-
Coffee doesn't wake me up anymore.
Really?
No,
Yeah.
I sit here drinking it all the time.
And I switched to drinking decaf, and because I was having trouble sleeping.
See what old people talk about?
Yeah, that's true.
Decaf.
So
Yeah. Mhm.
Let's snap out of it. Now we are snapping. We're officially snapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I subscribed to the New York Times,
Mhm.
and for the first time, we got it free, when we worked. But I really like it. I mean, because it covers things that, let's face it, local papers, even the Next Door app, which is
Mhm.
like a religion in Florida.
Yeah.
That Next Door. But the New York Times, I'm liking quite a bit. I may just
Now
keep that up.
you're not working anymore, right?
No, and it's very nice.
Really?
But yeah, but you're working.
Well, this is my little thing, that I do, right?
Yeah, it's
But
fun.
this
I look
isn't
forward
this
to it.
isn't like working.
No, it isn't like working.
I don't know
Well,
if I told you this the last time, but a couple of weeks ago I was asked to guest host a show here in New York.
Yeah.
And I went into this radio studio, and I hadn't been in a real studio for almost 10 years.
Uh-huh.
And it so rejuvenated me.
Yeah. Oh, it
Even though
really
this was a Christian conservative station,
Ah!
it rejuvenated me. And I walked out of
Yeah.
it. Marjorie said, "You're walking straighter, and you're just so peppy and everything."
It is.
So that's something that's in my blood. Sitting here in my apartment doing this, it's not so much,
Yeah. It is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And I love the smell of radio stations. It's that combination of like tech and a little oil, grease the wheels.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, intoxicating.
And it really invigorated me a great deal.
Yeah, if you read, I read biographies copiously, and the many radio or media biographies talk about that smell, and I know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah, I'm trying to exactly figure out the smell you're talking about, because I spent so long in my life in radio studios that I think I became immune to the smell.
Probably. I think mainly of the smell of the first radio station, the second radio station that I worked in, because it was so unique. It was back when stations were still owned by individuals, and you saw your owner. Yeah.
Yes, folks, that's amazing. At one time, they were owned by one individual. Sometimes.
Who you saw all the time.
Yeah, and the most they could own anywhere in the country was like, 7 radio stations, I think it was?
Yes, until 96, wasn't it? The FCC said, no, Clear Channel can own everything.
And then they bought 1,200 radio stations, and then they had to start selling them because they couldn't afford it.
Yeah. And I worked for Cumulus in Des Moines I always wanted to cover a presidential ramp up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a blast. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of autonomy, and so the thing there was, it was, owned in one town. It was a Des Moines station, and it was very Christian conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And but they didn't expect you to hew to that. Now, if you do a talk show on a Christian conservative station, you seem like a little more pressured to keep the tone. Yeah, but I wasn't pressured, and I love the people I work with. But Cumulus, something was filed against them, these class action suits you can't even keep track of. And so I'll probably get $1.73 for some slight that I didn't even feel, from Cumulus.
Yeah.
And That's okay. And what is it? The way class action suits come after every tendril of responsibility. Like Deutsche Bank just paid $75 million to Jeffrey Epstein's victims. Yeah. What's with that? How deep does it go?
Well, hey, if Jeffrey Epstein's victims can get it, they should get it.
They should get it. Oh, I'm all for his victims being compensated. All for it. Yeah. I just wonder, makes me on a broader level wonder, where does responsibility begin and end?
Well, yeah. And is Deutsche Bank responsible? I guess they are. I mean, they were doing business with him, so they probably figured there was some culpability there.
Yeah, they said that they didn't detect things in his banking activity. I don't know if it was like, he wrote a check to the same teenager for the same amount 4 months in a row. I don't think that's their response. I don't know. I
can't see how it would be. I'm going to have to go back and look at that case and see what they were asking for and under what conditions.
Yes. And because I was immersed in that case, and Giselle Maxwell, it was immersing, but I got too, I don't know, the details of it were really wearing me down.
Yeah.
And predatory behavior, even from afar, just...
So it seems to me like, even though you're not a newswoman right now, you're still hooked in. You're still watching the news.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So what sources? New York Times, we just established, is one of your sources.
Yes. That was probably a good one. What I do is chase articles all over the internet. So I kind of have it gerrymandered. Washington Post, I think, is pretty credible. LA Times, and just offbeat. So I thought Vice was pretty good. It was interesting, and then it's bankrupt now.
Yeah.
But just everything from even periodicals still have reporting strengths.
Okay. But when it comes to TV, you don't watch any of those networks?
I just don't. And
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. It's so manipulative, and you feel manipulated from the time you click the channel.
You know what I found the other day, which is I think news-wise, I would rely on it more than anything else. They have an app that's on Roku and on Apple TV and things like that called CBS News.
Yeah.
And they do a 24-hour news cycle. And I watched them yesterday, and I said, this is amazing. There is no perceived bias when you're watching it.
Great. I mean, because that's what you're supposed to strive for at every news outlet.
See, when you were always told to strive for that, no matter what your politics were, you were not supposed to let the audience know what your politics were. We didn't know what Walter Cronkite's politics were.
Exactly.
Right? We just knew that we could rely on him for the news.
Mm-hmm.
And we wouldn't rely on him as much,
Yeah, and that's but when the infotainment came in, like Entertainment Tonight, they mimicked a news setup, a news anchor.
People lost because Entertainment Tonight looked like a newscast.
Exactly.
People lost a perception of what's a newscast and what isn't.
Right, and I think that's even more fuzzy on the internet. Even some of these surveys, I always look to see who sponsored the statistics, the gathering of the statistics, and that will tell you how the statistics are going to skew. But if you don't have that information and it's getting less and less obvious, which is part of the manipulation package, it just becomes, you have to, I think, find sources like spots of credibility and double check. First be wary and then double check. And if they still hold up, go with it.
Well, I go nuts around here because every time I go into the bedroom or I go into the living room wherever Marjorie happens to be, she's got MSNBC on. And I said, what are you watching that propaganda for?
Yeah.
I said, find some source. If you're going to watch the news, watch a source that isn't trying to get your dollar,
And CNBC, which I only became, really aware of because my husband watches it he's very into the stock market.
Yeah.
And so I like the fact that they have an agenda, but they're upfront with it. It's business, it's
Right.
money, it's Wall Street.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they tell you right up.
Right.
And yet they also give you a different perspective that I didn't have before, and how it influences other things, which is kind of good. And
Well, I hear the siren. It sounds like they're coming to get you, and we're running out of time here. So,
okay.
Let's talk again next time, okay? I really want to, and stick around after this so that we can talk, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Lori Thompson, my former newswoman in San Francisco. We woke up with each other every morning for like, I don't know, what, 11 years or something.
And we still like each other.
Yeah, I love you. Okay, we'll be. Thanks, Lori.
Now in its 9th year, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Yes, that is Lori Thompson. For all of you, she was my newswoman on my radio show in San Francisco. Excuse my voice tonight. It's a little. When I was talking to her, I was hoarse, and then I started coughing today, and now I've got a kind of a sore throat, and I think maybe I'm coming down with a cold. I haven't come down with a cold in a couple of years, I think. Anyway, so please excuse me, and I will try and make it through the show. Who is this? Let me put somebody up here, but I'm not going to put them on until I see who the hell they are, okay? If there's somebody we can admit, his name is Steve Muller. So let's see if he actually exists. Steve, are you there? Steve, can we hear you? Can we see you? There's nobody there. Okay, all right. Well, I don't know. There's nobody there. So why should he not be saying anything? Oh, there he is. Can you hear me? Hi, how are you, Steve? Are you there?
Alex.
Yes.
I can't believe it's you. You're like a rock star, too.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me just bring in some other people too here. Let me bring in Jeff Stein. Where are you, Steve? You must be in the Bay Area, huh?
I am in Sacramento.
So wait, hold on a second. He's got a.
You're Alex.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's you. You were like a rock star.
Jeff, turn your audio off.
Yes.
He always does that. Now there's another person, Eddie Jordan, who again, I mean, I don't know who this is, and I'm not going to put your pictures on yet until I see who this guy is, because sometimes they just are people trying to get on and do something absolutely terrible. And, oh, there he is. There's Eddie Jordan as well. Okay. All right. I can put you all on then. All right. Here we go. Hello, Eddie Jordan. How are you?
Good.
Are you there, Eddie?
Yes.
Okay. Where are you calling from?
Hold on one second. I got too much going on.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go ask Steve Muller. So you're calling from Sacramento. What do you do, Steve? You haven't called the show before, have you?
Yeah, Alex, I'm in Sacramento. You have radio history here, don't you?
What?
I'm in Sacramento.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, what do you do? I don't think you've called our program before, have you? What is all that chatter?
I never have.
Hold on a second.
I never have, Alex. Let me dial back in. I'm getting like crazy weird audio.
Well, I think that happens to be Jeff. Jeff, would you mute yourself and let's see if that kills it? Wait a minute. Did you mute yourself?
Mute myself.
Oh boy. Here, I think I can mute you. Oh, I can ask you to mute. Oh, there we go. Okay, and there's still a chatter of some sort. Okay, Steve, call us back, will you? Okay. And Eddie, where are you calling from?
I'm in Thailand right now.
Thailand? Let me see.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Is that the furthest away? Well, wait a minute. Which is further? Thailand, which was Siam at one time,
Yeah.
or is it? Is it? Let me ask you this: is Malaysia closer or further away from Thailand?
It's kind of in the same.
Okay, because we have somebody that calls us from Malaysia.
longitude.
Somebody that calls us from Malaysia.
Yeah.
So anyway, where in Thailand?
Yontiam. It's a beach resort beach town.
Oh, okay. I probably should act like I've heard of it, but I never have. So you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
It's like 100 miles from Bangkok on the beach.
Really?
I've called the show before.
Have
Probably
you? Have you?
over a
Yes,
year ago.
I seem to
Yeah.
remember the name. Were you in Thailand
Yeah, I
at
used
that
to-
time?
I called once from Thailand and we had a really bad connection, but I was living in Vallejo, California before, and I
Yeah,
used to call.
yeah. But now you
But
have
now I live here.
now you have good Wi-Fi, do you?
Yeah,
Okay.
you got the fiber optic internet.
Yeah.
Good to go.
Uh-huh. And do you have all the I imagine we tend to think of these places as being remote and foreign countries and so, but you've got cable TV there and things like that, right? And you got the internet.
Yeah,
You apparently have a good internet because it's a good signal that we're getting.
yeah. I paid like $300 for it for a year.
Oh, for a year.
Here.
So you
Yeah.
pay in advance, do you?
Yeah, they had a deal pay
Yeah.
equivalent of $300, and I said, "Hey,
Yeah. So
Can't beat that.
do you work there, Eddie? Do you work in Thailand?
no, I'm retired."
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Well, I'm suffering a sore throat today. I don't know. I think I'm coming down with a cold, which I have no idea how I'm getting a cold. I never leave the house. You know, so whatever. And we're waiting to see if Mueller can call back. Whether he is or not, I don't know. But what happens is when we get strange names that we either haven't seen or don't see regularly, we get a little suspicious because we have people who then, what they call Zoom bomb us. And so I go to them and all of a sudden we have two people having sex, and they're usually two males. I don't know why it's always male porn. It's never anything that I would go for. Here comes Steve again. Steve is in. Okay, Steve, there you are. Okay, connect your audio. Yeah, there seems to be a little bit of a, well, oh, there's a little bit of a problem, but I'm not going to worry about it for the time being. So you live in Sacramento, right?
I do. Am I coming through loud and clear?
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I do. I live in Sacramento, and I'm one of your old-time fans from way back. You know, I used to work in Silicon Valley, lived in Mountain View. I
Yeah.
used to hear Miss Lori on the radio and Mr. Bubbles. with
Well,
his,
if you
rap.
watch the beginning of the show tonight, I was on with Lori.
That's what I saw on Facebook. I said, "Holy crap, he's got Lori back. I gotta
Yeah.
go see this." So here I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah, we do these. We're doing these calls now, and
Very cool.
and it's like nothing. No time has passed. When we just picked right up where we left off. We have the same
Well,
kind of
good, man.
relationship.
I'll give you one right back at you, Alex. Just literally this morning,
Hmm.
I saw Chrissy Hind of the Pretenders just in the news. It's her birthday or something, right?
Really?
And I remembered I went to your studio back in the 90s, and Chrissy Hind of the Pretenders showed up on her own with a guitar and a guitar amp, set it up at like 7 in the morning and played a Pretender song. And I just remember thinking, okay, that's a professional musician. I'm a bedroom noodler. This lady, like, she's great. She like staggered out of the Fairmont Hotel after a gig the night before, shows up at your place on her own, guitar and amp, and
Do you
just
know? I wish I remembered that.
Yeah, no, I remember it made a big. I remember everybody was like, "Holy cow! I think we just saw something right there." It was very
Yeah, well,
cool.
no, that's amazing you mention it to me because I don't remember it.
See, that's your problem.
Well, I did. Look, how many
You did a zillion of them.
how many hours of shows did I do out of San Francisco? 11 years,
Uncountable.
11, 12 years, something like that.
Yeah, and
So,
it's not like you showed up for 45 minutes and then went home or
so
something.
sometimes you're going to forget some of the shows, and I don't know why I
Absolutely.
forget that one. But gee, it sounds like it was a great show. I wish I could find a tape of it somewhere. I
No, it
do.
was very cool. It was very cool. Lady shows up with her guitar and just flipping rocks at
You,
like
you know, I
8 in
should
the
find
morning.
out where it is because I may have that tape here. I have 1,000 tapes of
Yeah,
old shows, cassettes, but they're very hard to go through. You know.
yeah, I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see that. But no, you're well remembered around here, and
Yeah.
what can I say? Especially Lori too. I
Yep.
used to have ideas of like showing up at a nightclub on a Friday night and hoping she might show up or something.
Yeah. So what do you do now?
I actually am retired. I worked for 20 plus years in the biotech industry there in Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm out of the game now. I don't work anymore.
You don't work anymore.
No.
So we have well, actually four retirees here. That's what we have. You know.
Yeah.
And I got medical stuff I could babble about, but like you were joking about organs a little earlier.
Organ recitals. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wish I could still work. I miss it tremendously. It's a trap we fall into as we
Well,
age.
did you retire yourself or did they retire you?
No, I hit a health snag. Fortunately, well resolved and everything, but my days of sort of working, I used to call it 7 to 7, 7 in the morning till 7 o'clock that night, and the parking lot's all full with everybody working. I can't do it anymore. Once a little bit of the medical trauma and
Well,
drama
when you
hit.
had the medical trauma, did you get some kind of relief for that? I mean, did the company keep paying you, or was there
Oh,
some kind of program?
well, basically, yes. Yes. In fact, when I went in front of the disability judge, she said, "You haven't worked for 15 months. How did you where's all that money coming from?" It's like, well, I worked for this company for like close to 20 years. And so your sort of disability, what do they call it? Severance money stacked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't get rich off it, but I didn't have to worry about paying my bills for quite a while. Put it that way.
Well, I got severance from Sirius XM,
Yeah.
and to tell you what kind of got people they are, I got what was it? 6 weeks severance? No, 12 weeks of severance
Okay.
of my salary, and then that was it. And I worked for
Yeah,
them
see,
for almost 10 years.
they gave us like 2 months a year or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But at least you got a fairly decent amount of money there to keep you going for a while.
Oh yeah, and I needed it. To be honest, I needed it. I had just gotten sick and sort of checked out of everything to do with that previous life, and so blessed in that way. But
Yeah,
it was all harshly attached to reality of things I was sort of wishing hadn't happened.
And how about you, Eddie? You said you're retired, right?
Yes.
Did you get retired, or did you decide to retire, or was there mandatory retirement, or what was it?
I was working in an oil refinery when COVID kicked off, and they laid off all the contractors. And they said, "We'll call you back when we get this figured out on what we're going to do."
Mm-hmm.
And they called me back, and I said, "Sorry, who is this?" I figured out I didn't need to work anymore, and
Oh, okay.
I got some disability from the VA that carries me over, and
Yeah.
then my retirement kicked in, and Social Security, and then I moved to Thailand, so it goes 3 times as far.
Now, let me ask you. You were, I guess, still living in the Bay Area, right? When
I was.
Yeah.
I was until February.
Until February, and then you decide to move somewhere, and you say, "Hey, Thailand sounds like a good idea."
Yeah.
Why did you decide that?
Well, my wife's from Thailand,
Okay.
and I've been here probably 15 times before this trip. So
I can't tell you how many people, like guys I know, who their wives come from another country, and then when they retire, they move to their wife's ex-country. Like I have a
Yeah.
friend that just moved to the Philippines, and he had a wife from the Philippines, and she wanted to go back there. So he said, "Fine, I'm retired. Let's go." You know.
yeah,
So you know,
you can really stretch a dollar here.
really, not as expensive over there, is it?
No.
Okay, so you've got what, a house? Did you buy a house or did you do you?
Right now, I have a 2-bedroom apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and it's $450 a month, $450 a month.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
yeah. Here in New
Yeah,
York,
no.
that would be about $5,000 a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can walk to the beach, and it's a 5-minute walk from where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah. And everything's pretty peaceful in that part of the world now, right?
Yeah.
So you found a
Yeah.
place on the planet where there isn't grief going on.
Not really. You go down the south to southern Thailand, and it gets close to Malaysia.
Yeah.
And they have a high Muslim population, and
Mhm.
there's some separatists that set off bombs every now and then.
Every now and then. Well, what is it?
I
What's
haven't
a-
heard of it
what's
since
a-
I've been here.
What's a bomb between friends?
Yeah.
You know. And you, Jeff, why did you decide to live in Connecticut?
That's a good choice. Originally being a New Yorker,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a job, a real cool job in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there like 2 weeks, and the guy goes, "I hate to tell you this, but we're closing down this division." And I said, "What?" She goes, "Yeah. And we'll give you like 2 months money."
Oh,
And I said,
really?
"How about 3 months?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was in Florida for a while and trying to see if there was something down there.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work out. So I just came back to New York and asked somebody if they had some opportunities. And they had one in Connecticut, which was in the medical business, which I really liked. So that's what I did. And I started my own little business doing that.
Yeah. So, yeah, but that was before the stroke, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was about almost. I had been there like I think over
How
20
long
years.
has it been since you had your stroke? It's got to be about 15
Oh,
years.
it's getting to be 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you were married at the time, right?
It's 25 years according to the backup.
Well,
here.
I seem to remember something like 15, 20. Yeah, when you
Yeah.
told me. So the wife knows when you had the stroke, but you don't. So that's how bad
No.
the stroke was.
Well, remember, I couldn't even talk for a year
Yeah.
effectively.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And
here
now
you are, well, 25 years later, and you're in pretty good shape. You know, I mean, you've still got effects from the stroke, but
Oh yeah, yeah. The biggest problem is I can't read very effectively,
yeah.
but I can do it today using a computer. So I get it to read to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. It's funny, he talks about this, but you before were working on what? Not artificial hearts, but heart implants, right?
So, yeah, all the surgical instruments that was necessary to do the different kind of surgeries.
And the very things that saved your life, you had helped.
Oh, obviously, some of the things were done right here, and they're still in there.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is everybody else tonight? See, this is getting strange. This is getting
This
real
is
strange.
Thursday. Remember?
Tonight we have two people who we don't normally see, and that's fine. That's great. I love the change in people, you know. But where are the rest of them?
Yeah,
You know.
that's why I called
Alex,
tonight.
it's great. I'll say this as a fan. I mean, you remind me of like an old blues man, John Lee Hooker or something, where you're just keeping going. You're still broadcasting. I love it.
I'm still
it is
doing
your
it. Yeah.
talent.
Yeah.
It's
I'm sorry you had to give
what
me.
can I say? I know you know what I'm talking about, dude.
Well, I'm sorry you got me on a night when I've got something in my throat. I don't know. Sore
No,
throat.
don't worry.
You sound good.
Those old shows were loads of fun there in San Francisco. Some days I'd go to work. I didn't go many times. I realistically went like 4 times. Actually, showed up in the little studio, and I'd be like going down Market Street or wherever I happened to be heading off to work at that
Yeah.
time. I think let's burn a couple hours, and I'd go over to your studio, and it was very cool thing you had there with the audience. And I remember when Patton Oswalt was the new guy that everybody liked, but
Yeah.
he was like the new kid on the block.
That's
and
right.
he was intimidated by all the other local San Francisco comics who are legends and everything.
But he also held his own very well.
It's a funny game, isn't it? Entertainment.
It's funny. You talk about nice guys. I got to say this about him, and I don't know where to get a hold of him. Otherwise, I'd have him on the show.
Yeah. Okay.
But a lot of comedians, when they leave me, let's say, and I raise them,
Gotcha.
raise them from a pup. Okay.
That's right.
Never got a hold of me again.
No, I know the names you're talking about.
Patton Oswalt went out of his way once to call me up after
That's
he had
cool.
started making it in L.A. and stuff, and just saying,
Yeah.
I'm in San Francisco. I'm doing a half-hour comedy show for I think it was HBO, and I wanted to thank you because you made this all possible.
Oh, that is cool.
And that was, to me, that was very nice because considering that I never expected to ever hear anything from anybody of that sort, I heard it from
Right.
him,
But from what I remember, those couple times I saw him there, it makes sense. He was the new guy.
Oh, yeah, he was a new guy.
He was
Yeah.
a kid. He was the one who was intimidated by, Bobby Slayton or whoever was
Well, I'm
there
intimidated by Bobby Slayton, for crying out loud.
Yeah. But you know what I mean, though, that the slightly bigger name. He was the new guy. And I remember Lori just thought he was hilarious. And I remember that to this day. And I'm a big fan. My favorite comic is Bubbles. I'm a degenerate and
Well,
everything.
Bubbles
so.
does this show
He
once a week.
does.
He'll be on tomorrow night. Yeah.
That's where I got onto you. I looked you up a few years ago on YouTube. I'm like, wow, Alex is still out there. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Eddie, let me ask you, whereabouts did you live again?
Vallejo.
Vallejo. Okay.
Vallejo, there you go.
Yeah. Why Vallejo? Well, I guess, were there some tech companies up there?
It's close to the oil refineries.
Oh, oil. You were in oil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And originally I was from Florida, and I came out to California for work and ended up just staying there for 20 years.
Wow. Well, I got stuck in New York because I got stuck in New York. Even after it was all over, I had married Marjorie, my wife, my current wife.
Okay.
And I said, well, I guess you don't want to move. And she said, no, I ain't moving out of New York. She was adamant. She said, you know what her thing was? All my hospitals are here.
Good
I
question.
saw an article that said that New York City was a really good place to retire for elderly people for that exact reason. They said
Well,
it's
it has the
really-
best hospitals probably in the country.
Right.
Yeah.
And they said they're all less than a quarter of a mile from your apartment or whatever. So,
Well,
yeah.
no, Mount Sinai is about a quarter of a mile from me, and that's our
Cool.
hospital of choice. And every time I pass by it on a bus, I look at it and go, well, that's where I'm going to die someday. I mean,
Right on.
that's the closest hospital. Like the
Exactly.
few medical emergencies I've had, nothing really serious, but when I've been hauled away by an ambulance, that's where we went.
It's nice to establish a little certainty around the details of one's upcoming demise and all that good
Yes,
stuff.
exactly. But anyway, so but every time I even get something like a sore throat, I'm going, well, this is it. I'm through. Because, you know, I'm 83 years old. That's the way you think. You know,
Yeah.
and I've had some close friends die on me and stuff, and that's kind of put me in a certain frame of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. So, but anyway, the reason we don't leave here is because Marjorie refuses to leave here. And then there's this whole story about how we had a whole problem with this apartment. We have a 2,500 square foot apartment.
Oh, man.
It's 3 bedrooms, one of which I use here as a studio,
Yeah.
and a huge living room, a huge dining room, a huge kitchen, 2 bathrooms, you know. And we got into a whole legal thing with the guy who sublet us the apartment, where he really wasn't allowed to, not at the rate he was charging us. Well, one thing led to another, and he sued us and the landlord, and we sued him back. And finally, after all was said and done, we went to court, and we were allowed to stay in this apartment at a monthly rent of $500.07 a month.
That's an amount of money a person can come up with.
That is a lot of nothing.
That
And so I sit here and I go, you know, even if I got $500,000 or something, and I would decide to go buy a house upstate, I would still keep this apartment at $500 a month. Come on, you know.
it's in the city.
But
yeah.
so if I ever wanted to leave, once my wife's job was over, which was about a year and a half ago, the thought of leaving now is impossible. Where am I going to get a rent like this anywhere in the United States, for crying out loud?
No.
What'd you say you were paying in
Thailand,
Thailand?
$450.
Oh, you're paying less than me. How dare you? And
Yeah.
yeah.
I make it up in
That's
air
great.
conditioning.
Yeah, what are the rents like up in Sacramento?
You know, they used to be cheap, but they've gone up. They're not Bay Area like, but you don't drive around town all afternoon seeing, oh, look, there's the big cheap apartment complex on the corner with a place for $600. That is what evaporated, was the lower end. Now we're lucky we bought our house years ago, but at the I want to be a renter, and I want to be in that, you know, lower percentile. I want to pay cheap rent. Those places evaporated.
Supposedly,
And now those places, they're like a minimum, I believe, of like $1,500 a month for like a crappy sort of 1-bedroom out on the busy street with the cop car zooming
Well,
by.
in San Francisco,
you know.
try a 1-bedroom for at least $3,000 a
Right.
month.
No, it's still a lot cheaper in Sac. You're right.
You know, do you have the same? Now we've been talking about these problems that San Francisco has been having.
Yeah.
You know, with the people sleeping in the tents on the streets and defecating on the sidewalks. And fentanyl, they're a big fentanyl town because fentanyl's cheaper there than it is anywhere else in the country.
Yeah.
So all the addicts for fentanyl go live on the street in San Francisco.
No,
And that town has supposedly, somebody said, don't come back. You won't, you wouldn't know it. You
and
know?
I understand why they would say that. So I love San Francisco. I lived there in the 90s, just like you. Same thing, you know. And but the amount, well, here's where it gets us. I have a wife, I have kids. They get bored on the weekend, and it's 70 miles from here, right? So Saturday morning we think, let's down a bunch of coffee, and like we used to, let's just drive over there and go have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't looking like so much fun right now. It's a little bit of a scene over there, and you know the city well. So the tourist hotels are all near the Tenderloin, and you know the theater district. You know,
the theater district
now
was
it's
off
down
of
to
Union Square, which is now all the stores around Union Square
it's
are
just
closing.
Alex, it's just a flipping scene around there now.
Yeah.
So what went down from one guy you might see up an alley smoking something fishy that's probably stronger than weed, you know, that's kind of like when you and I lived there in the 90s. That's now escalated to just full on, just open air drug use everywhere all the time. It's hard to describe. It's very sad. I'm pretty liberal, but I want the something's got to give. It's one of those situations. It's, you know, this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
We can go there, but we won't, because there's more fun places to go. I mean, I don't want to take my 14-year-old daughter over there to see a guy fixing up or something, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just that one step beyond.
Yeah.
The old days, it was somebody smoking a joint or whatever, and she would understand.
Do you have those problems, though, of people in tents and defecating on the streets in Sacramento?
Not so much in Sacramento. We definitely have people in tents. We have a, you know what it is, though? It's very well hidden because it exists along the river. So they actually kind of sleep in trees and along the river, and then go into town maybe to do whatever they need to do. But actually, I'm diminishing it. The answer is yes, we have it. It's just not quite at that level where you walk out of your apartment building, like in San Francisco, take 3 steps down the street, and there's like a.
It's not what it's not doing is impinging on residential neighborhoods. Okay.
Remember when you lived in that San Francisco, that thing where you'd walk out the door and one day everybody's smiling and happy, and the next day there's like people screaming at each other and pulling hair out of each other's heads and stuff. That sort of random city life. Sacramento's quieter than that.
Yeah, because I used to work in Sacramento.
You did?
After I left Live 105, I went to work with a company, and then I did what I had to do from San Francisco, called Play Incorporated, and we started the first video internet network.
That's right.
Yeah.
They made transcoders or things. I can't remember.
And we did it out of their company was in Sacramento, so I used to have to drive up there like 3 days a week.
Gotcha.
Until I started doing the shows from San Francisco, and then I never had to go up there.
Yep.
But I knew Sacramento pretty well, and I lived in Sacramento in my early career.
I remember that. I remember you saying that.
At a classical music, not a classical music, a good music station. You know what they call with a good music station is like Montavani and Andre Castellanets and that kind of crap, which nobody knows who I'm talking about right now, and thank God you don't know, because these people should not be remembered on any musical level. Okay. So, and you were in Vallejo. Had it turned at all before you left?
It's always been kind of seedy, ever since Mare Island closed. They lost a lot of tax money, and they laid off a bunch of police, and there's a bunch of homeless, but they're pretty well congregated. And
so when Mare Island closed, they were in trouble, huh?
Yeah,
I didn't realize that. I remember when I used to drive by Mare Island, they used to have all the mothball fleet was there.
Yes.
Where there were all these ships that were mothballed. In case people don't know what we're talking about, when you mothballed a ship, they covered it with a whole bunch of stuff to preserve it so it wouldn't fall apart. And so it wouldn't fall apart.
Take this call.
Okay. Imagine he's getting calls on his cell phone in Thailand. Okay. Right.
Alex, that pile of rusting old ships is the reason that part of the Bay Area is actually very high, or used to be, I don't know if it still is, on the old Soviet and Russian nuclear target list, was because it was a military place that had dozens of rusting old ships.
Rusting old ships, yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So you need to nuke the heck out of that east side of the Bay Area and just turn it to dust. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, wait a minute. Here comes Tony. Let's see here. Is this Tony? Is it Tony? It is Tony. Okay, we want to make sure it's Tony and not some phony Tony. What was I going to say? There was something I was going to bring up. Oh yeah, you were lifting your guitar there. Do you play? Well, you must.
I
Look
do.
at you.
I'm kind of a bedroom noodler, but yes, I
but
do play.
if you're a bedroom noodler, you've got way too many guitars to just simply be.
You know what it is? I can explain it directly. It's the one thing I'm materialistic about. I could bankrupt a small nation on guitars at the right store. And I haven't done that.
But
This is
why?
like
If you
30
say you're
years
just a
later.
noodler, you'd think all you need is one little guitar, maybe two, and that's
Yeah.
it. But you look like, some professional musician who has every guitar known to mankind.
Nah, semi-professional years and years ago. But no, I just like them. It's the thing. Like every 4 or 5 years, I save up a little wad of money and buy one.
Could you just noodle for us a little bit?
You got a Gibson on the wall? I think that's a Gibson, right? The one on the left.
This is actually a weird guitar I bought in high school. I lived in England in high school, and but it is a Gibson type guitar.
It's a
You're right.
Gibson.
You are right.
Wow.
But no, it's very cool.
Yeah. So could you play something for us?
Oh yeah, okay. I've been playing Summertime. I don't know if you hear it.
What? Oh, you got your amp somewhere.
I'll have to set it up, Alex. Keep talking. I'll plug it all the crap in.
Okay, plug it in. Come on, you're not going to get out of here without playing
okay,
something.
You're right. Let me do this.
Use the acoustic. Use an acoustic.
Guitar.
Yeah, there you go. That'll do it.
Lately, I've been playing the old Gershwin song
Which one?
"Summertime" a lot.
Okay. I'm not expecting much, okay? What is it's for some reason the sound is not coming through. Talk to me.
It's just not flying, huh?
Yeah, get the guitar
Yeah,
closer. Listen. For some reason it's like
I can barely hear.
No,
Yeah.
it's weird. You know what? I bet the weird little computer microphone is tuned to voice and blocking these frequencies or something.
what it is it's automatically adjusting the microphone.
It is.
And I think the guitar is too loud is what the problem is.
It could be. The guitar's full of nasty honking mid-range frequencies that it may flush to make voice come through better. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I play the guitar for you, but I don't have a guitar here, and even if I did, I don't play the guitar. So, no.
That'd be your starting point.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you're in New York. I know you love that city. So
Well, I did love it. I could leave it tomorrow and I wouldn't care.
I got you.
How about you, Tony? You're a Queens guy. He's a real New Yorker. Listen
I'm a
to him.
real new.
That's the real thing.
I don't know if I can. My sister always says it. And my brother, hey, would you want to move down to Florida if I bought a house? He was saying this. I told my brother, I can't leave New York. It's in my blood now, I think.
Oh,
I'm used to the
you're as New York gets.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, I don't think I can do it. I'd have to have family there or a friend to pull me out there to another place.
Yeah.
Then I would think about it. I couldn't do it solo.
Yeah, but if you're a real New Yorker, let's see here. Reply to me when I say this, okay?
Yeah.
Here we go, getting demonetized. Fuck you.
Fuck you. Oh, I love to say that.
No. What you have to come back with, the true New Yorker, right?
Fuck me. Fuck you.
Well, that's one of them.
That's one of them.
Yeah, fuck me, fuck you.
No.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. So that's Tony, ladies and gentlemen. And
it'd be hard to move. Like, Alex, when you moved out of San Francisco, was it hard to leave your hometown to work at all these places? Did you ever get homesick?
Well, yeah, I always get homesick. Every time I see a TV show that's done in San Francisco.
I mean, it's got to be hard.
And I recognize the street when they turn the block,
Yeah.
I'm immediately, like there was a show, Chance, that was out recently with Hugh Laurie on Hulu. And we watched the whole thing again. And it took place in San Francisco, and I watched it and I just went, oh God, I wish I were there, And then Bubbles told me, no, you don't want to be here, That's the San Francisco you left. It's not the San Francisco that's here now. And so, excuse me, I have to blow my nose.
Right, he's right, Alex.
What?
He is right. It's a shell of what it was, sort of. Every city must do this to some degree, but I agree. I agree with.
Well, I was born and raised in that town.
You were.
And you love the town you were born. Well, a lot of times you don't love the town you were born and raised in. But what happened to me is I went away, and I came to New York, and I worked in New York, And then I came home to San Francisco, and I suddenly realized how much I love the city, how much I truly missed it. You know, I was going across the Golden Gate Bridge one day, and I said, God, this is gorgeous. How come I never saw this? Because all those years I had been driving across the Golden Gate Bridge over and over and over again and just took it for granted.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I talk about people who say, New York's very noisy, isn't it? I said, you wouldn't know, because after you've lived here, you cut the sound off in your head. You immediately cancel the noise. And a lot of that happens when you live somewhere and it's really beautiful and it's really wonderful, but you just take it for granted. I went across the Golden Gate Bridge. Here's my toll. Screw you, you know. And I never looked out at the city from there or anything. And when I came home, suddenly, after 10 years of not being there, I saw all this. And I went, God, this is an amazing town. You know,
what I always laugh about San Francisco is it's a city that's exceptionally beautiful on a macro scale. So get up on a hillside and look out over it. Go off on the Marin Headlands and look back at the city. It's absolutely filthy and disgusting on a micro scale. Don't go like sit on a sidewalk, you know.
Oh, I'll tell you, New York's a lot like that.
New York's
I see pictures of New York taken from New Jersey, or I see pictures of New York that are taken from the air. And I go, this is one of the most beautiful metropolitan cities in the world.
It is, exactly.
Until you're right down on the street, driving down the street.
San Francisco's like
and then
that.
You go, none of this is beautiful. They're building.
It's absolutely horrendous when you go down to that micro scale.
Like they put this thing in our building here. This building I'm in was built in 1900 by the Astors, and it was it's an incredible building. I mean, I have landlords that don't know how incredible it is because they do nothing to fix it up. But the fact is, they've had to do some work on it lately, and the work they've done on it is they're pointing it. You know, you have the bricks, and they have to put all the stuff in between the bricks and redo it because it hasn't been done since like 1900 or something. So they have to put up around the building. I don't know, what do they call it? Scaffolding.
Yeah.
To prevent bricks and stuff from falling down on people. So they've had this thing up for about 3 years now while they've been working on the building. And it has been, I call it a homeless shelter because all the homeless people sit under it, you know, and but a lot of buildings in New York, I mean, I'd have to say 20% of the buildings in New York all have these scaffoldings on them.
No, my mom lived in London for many years. It was exactly the same. You just walk out from her house in the morning.
Yeah.
You could just stop on a street corner and just open your ears. Every direction you would hear drills, hammers, gouging implements, concrete trucks pulling up. The whole city was under constant renovation.
Yeah, well, this is the same thing with New York.
It's the exact same thing you're talking about.
By the way, we've been joined by Phil Meyer. Hello, Phil.
Hi.
Hello.
From San Francisco.
Why did you decide to call all of a sudden?
I got bored with what I was watching on TV.
Oh, really? So you thought you'd get bored here?
Yeah, well, I was listening to you guys talk, and I thought it was very interesting. And
yeah, what's happened to San Francisco is pathetic. It's sad. And I saw this documentary they did on CNN about it, and they really amplified what was really wrong with San Francisco. You know.
Well, it's not just San Francisco. It's Los Angeles, New York.
No, but it's not. It's supposedly San Francisco. It is especially horrible because that was the most beautiful city in America. Okay?
It certainly was.
Yeah, and it's not anymore. That's the tragedy. When it happens to LA has always sucked. New York has always had its level of filth. I mean, it went through, when I first came to New York, you would go down to the subway and you would see a subway car go by and it was a riot of color because all these people have done graffiti on the side of the trains. But I felt, I don't know if you remember those old trains. I felt actually it was an improvement on those trains. You know.
Yeah, you know, a lot of artists became famous for their work. Who was the guy that did all the outlines?
Oh,
Yeah, what's his name? Herring, Keith Herring.
Yeah, Keith Haring.
I have a Keith Herring lithograph that is signed by Keith Herring. Framed.
That's worth
in
money,
my
Alex.
apartment. Yeah.
He died young.
Yeah, no, he did a thing at there was a club called the something 8. I'm trying to remember the name of it, and he did a painting for them, one of his things, and he came to San Francisco to debut it, and I got him. He came to the show, and I got him to sign one for me.
I remember they used to, on the light posts, they had Keith Haring banners hanging when they had his exhibition in San Francisco.
Yeah. It's a really nice poster. I'm very happy with it. One of the few pieces of art I own. What, Jeff?
I think Connecticut is really under construction.
Oh, really?
It's been under the roads, the streets, and all of that.
I think what we're establishing here is all these cities are very nice if you're not on the ground, on the ground level, you know. Because from a distance, I'm sure San Francisco still looks great.
Oh, beautiful.
You know, I mean, it's a wonderful town with the hills and Coit Tower. Of course, I always talk about Coit Tower because Coit Tower was my first love. He was my first friend. I always talk about being a kid and lying in my bedroom and out my window because we were on Telegraph Hill. There was Coit Tower. And during the war, you could barely see it, only during the day. But then I remember when I was a kid, the first night after the war, they weren't worried about blackouts and things like that, and they lit up Coit Tower. And I went, that thing lights up? And,
that's very cool.
And I would sit there and dream about Coit Tower coming down to visit me, and we'd go out and play together, you know. And as I like to joke, this is a constant joke of mine, is that it wasn't until I studied Freud that I found out why I was obsessed by Coit Tower. You know.
Then you went to Washington, D.C., and okay, I got you.
I went to Washington, D.C. What was that?
Oh, they got the
the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Do you know why that thing has 2 different colors to it? Did you ever notice that?
No.
About halfway up, it's like it starts becoming a different color. Because the first half of it was constructed before the Civil War.
Oh, that's
and when the Civil War came along, it stopped. And after the Civil War, they said, well, we can't just have this thing sitting here half done. So they went out and they finished it. But they couldn't, the quarries that they were using no longer existed. So they had to use different quarries, a different shade of rock, and that's why it's 2 different shades.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know. I actually never heard that story. That's cool.
Yeah, that's our history here. What are you looking at, Phil?
I clicked on webcam settings and it's unpinned and I don't know where it is.
Oh, you don't know where it is?
It's hidden somewhere.
Oh, okay. Well, which? You mean the settings for Zoom?
For camera.
For Zoom camera.
Well, yeah, for any camera, you know.
Well, just go to your Zoom and you go to video and you'll find your camera there.
No, I have the camera. It's webcam settings is a program you told me about.
Oh, okay. All right.
To change your Zoom and things like that.
Yeah, that's good. So, what's new with you, Phil? Anything?
Let's see. I'm going to do an ice plunge.
Oh boy, here we go again. This guy. If, by the way, if any of you have some kind of thing like this that you can do, he's a sucker and will do it for any price. Go ahead, Phil.
So at the gym, they they've got this barrel that they put in fresh water, but it's only 49 degrees. And I've been in 49-degree water before, of course, with an exposure suit, but it's 2-3 minutes, and it's supposed to be really healthy.
I can't remember when I did it, but I did a real ice plunge.
Really?
Oh yeah, Where
Was you on the bay?
no, this was it was in a gym. They had an ice plunge, and then they had a hot water plunge. And what you would do, the theory is, you jump into the cold water.
Yeah.
Which I'm telling you, I nearly passed out. Okay, I mean, when you hit that cold water, it just boom. But what it does is I know what you do. You go into the hot water first.
Mm-hmm.
The hot water opens your pores.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you somehow go into another pool that kind of cleans it off, or a shower and clean it off, and then you jump into the ice water and it slams your pores shut.
Mm-hmm.
So that all the dirt and stuff doesn't stay in the pores. I swear to you, going into that ice plunge, I mean, you say 49 degrees. I'm talking about this was an ice plunge.
Frozen, huh?
Well, no, if it was a real frozen to ice temperature, I wouldn't be able to be in it. But, it was close, man.
It's supposed to deal with inflammation and things like that. And then there's a sauna in the same room. So you go from the plunge into the sauna. And, I figured I'd give it a try.
Well, try going from the sauna into the plunge. That's what I had to do. This was in Houston, Texas, I believe. I can't remember where it was. I seem to remember it was Houston. And
then, let's see, Saturday, I'm going to shoot some MMA matches at Kezar Stadium, 20 matches. Mm-hmm. And our friend John Peroulis gets me the access there.
Well, your friend John Peroulis, because he never calls this program, so.
You yell at him.
Huh?
I don't know why. I don't think you like him.
I try. You know something? What happens is I can't remember why I didn't like him.
He's a wonderful guy. He
probably
really
is, but I can't remember why I don't like him anymore. So if he were to call me, I'd just be really nice to him.
Well, he's a good friend to Ray and to me.
Really?
And,
okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Saturday.
He's trying to steal all my friends, is what the guy is doing.
What friends?
Yeah.
And then Sunday, I'm going down to Monterey, and my buddy on Monday is going to straighten out my new computer and get it all synced with Lightroom.
And what do you mean synced? What is it? Is the simplest computer known to mankind, Phil.
I got 100,000 photos in Lightroom, and they're in catalogs. And the catalog has to be able to see the photo, and it won't see it from a new computer unless you match the photos with the catalog. And it takes some special
Lightroom. It's all. Well, I won't even get into it. Go spend $1,000 to get it fixed.
Well, yeah. And I'm staying at the Monterey Plaza Spa. Right on.
How many pictures do you have?
About 100,000.
About 100,000. They're not going to fit on your hard drive. On your SSD.
I got a new SSD. It's got 8 terabytes. It's called an OWC.
Yeah. The OWC is the company that sells it.
Yeah, well, it makes it.
No, it sells it.
This one's got
sells
8 terabytes. It's got 4 2-terabyte SSDs.
Boy, you waste your money.
Well,
you could have just thrown that onto a hard drive.
Yeah, I could have.
But
this is better
because I have 16 terabytes here on my hard drives.
And this is
right.
It's a RAID unit.
Yeah.
So. If a drive goes down.
Well, that's what I have here, but I have effectively you will only have 8 terabytes. Not 8 terabytes, 4 terabytes.
You do video. I haven't ever taken a video.
No, but I'm saying 100,000 photographs, Phil. Yeah. There's a lot of space taking up. Yeah.
It's 4 terabytes.
Is it?
4. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that's why you got the 8 terabyte.
Yeah.
SSD.
And when I outgrow this, I'll get a 16.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Hey, Phil, I don't know you. I used to be a software engineer.
Yeah.
And just quick question. You lost a whole bunch of photo files on a computer?
No.
Okay. I've rescued 2 people's photo collections by booting up a crapped out computer on a Linux off of a
Thumb drive?
little stick and then grabbing the files that way.
Well,
So that's my trick that's worked.
What I do, Phil, is I make 2 copies of everything I have, including
That's
the
good
video.
starting point.
You know.
Well, I also have 2 mini stack 8 terabyte USBs.
Yeah.
And they sit under it. So
No, I have 2
thing.
people I have 2 people that think I'm sort of like an Einstein of computing because I figured out, boot it up on a different operating system and just go see if you can physically grab the files off
Right.
of the disk. And
Well, years ago, there was a guy that
It
wrote a
worked.
book called The Damn Book. It's called Digital Asset Management. And
okay, yeah,
and so there's a protocol for saving your stuff. And that's
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have I have every show we've ever done here on 2 drives. 2 drives
Okay.
here, which are the redundant drives. They are the drives on the RAID, and then
Yeah.
also I keep all the audios here on 2 different drives, and all the audio shows on the other computer. So I've got about 3 copies of everything.
Yeah.
I've got the Drobo, but they went bankrupt.
Drobo.
And
Yeah.
I just got a letter that they're now Chapter 7. So I got to get out of it because there'll be no support.
Because when
it's working.
Oh, God. And
Does
how much?
7
And how,
mean the light? Does 7
and
mean
tell
the light?
them how much you
falling
paid
off
for
of
that. Tell them how much you paid for the Drobo.
Well, with the 5 8 terabyte drives,
Yeah, I
it's
remember
probably in at
those.
about $2,000.
$2,000.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, are they going to pay you back because they're going out of business?
They're Chapter 7. You know what that means?
What?
See chapter 6.
See chapter
I think
6.
That's the one where your egg is fried at that point, right?
Yeah,
That's-
first
yeah.
they went 11, and now they're 7 last
Yeah.
week. So
Well.
yeah, I got to get out of it.
Yeah. Well, I use a
You're
QNAP.
out of it already.
I use a QNAP, which is just fine. It's
Yeah.
never failed me. I mean, some of the hard drives initially failed me. I don't know why. They were maybe bad hard drives, but they weren't expensive ones either. And then I put in a bunch of 8s instead of the 4s that I had in there, and none of those 8s have ever crapped out on me. And if
Yeah.
one does, you just simply replace it with a new one, and you're still
You can
good
hot
to
swap.
go. Yeah,
Yeah, stuff is cheap and effective now.
Well, yeah, but when you go on SSDs, there's still.
Oh yeah, you're right.
SSDs
you're
are cheaper than they were. These are solid state drives. Folks.
Yeah, they're
You know
not
what I'm
cheap.
talking about.
No.
These 4 SSDs came in the unit already mounted. It was $1,100 for the
Right.
8 terabyte.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
it's
I
called-
remember around 2000, I worked at a biotech company. We had a lab. We needed 4 terabytes split 2 and 2 with RAID duplication. And the quote on the thing was $35,000, and it was like this huge box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My account in 1992, my accountant
Oh, man.
bought a 1 terabyte drive, and it was $5,000, and he was so proud of it.
Definitely.
Well, there's our theme playing. You can't hear it because for some reason that I can't figure out, you can't hear it. If I
Mixed
played
buttons.
another one of these things, you would be able to hear it.
Oh,
But
you're right. You go off at midnight, Alex?
go off at midnight, and Jack Bishop is here with the intersection.
You know
Very
why
cool.
he goes off at midnight?
Why?
Because he turns into a pumpkin.
I turned into a pumpkin. But anyway, he's next with the intersection,
Gotcha.
and he you can call him at Skype on Skype at Gabnet Live. Hey, listen, it's great for 2 new people to call this program, or people who have not called in
Alex,
a long
lots
time.
of love. Like I said, I remember you.
Well,
back
please
then, and
call
so-
us more. You were great, and the same goes for our friend in Thailand, Eddie Jordan,
Eddie.
who said you did call me once, didn't you? I remember that name. Well, I can't hear you. You're
You're
not.
not
you're-
muted, but we don't hear you.
we can't hear you. But anyway, hey, listen, thank you so much, Jeff. Always good to have you here. Thank you so much, Eddie. Call us again, please.
Oh, I've called you several times.
Yeah, and
but it's been a couple of years at least.
yeah, Steve, same thing. Please call us
You don't
again.
hear me?
Tony, I don't want to ever
Now
see
we
you
do.
on this program again. Okay. And same goes for you, Phil. Never again, please. I've had it with you. You know.
Yeah. Hey, you get a couple of newbies, and all of a sudden, it's like the old guys are in the dumpster.
Exactly. Everybody give a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you, okay? There they go. That's our citizen panel for tonight, folks. And that's me for tonight. I'll be back again tomorrow night for the final show of the week, right here on GabNet. Final show of the week. Same time, same station in life. And in the meantime, as always, you know, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Good night.